Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamutiriya. Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtike. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 80, the Brahman Sudama visits Lord Krishna in Dwarka. Text number 27 onwards. Kathyam Chakra Turgatha Purva Guru Kule Sato Atmanor Lalita Rajan Karo Griya Parasparam. Shukdev Goswami continued, taking each other's hands, O King, Krishna and Sudama talked pleasantly about how they once lived together in the school of their Guru. Shri Bhagwan Vacha Api Brahman Gurukulan Bhavata Labdha Dakshina Samavritin Dharmagya Bharyoda Sadrishi Nava. The Supreme Lord said, My dear Brahman, you know well the ways of Dharma. After you offered the gift of remuneration to our Guru and returned home from his school, did you marry a compatible wife or not? Among civilized human beings, the question of ashram or spiritual order is significant. In other words, every human being must execute prescribed duties as a celibate student, a married man or woman, a retired person or renunciant. Since Lord Krishna could see that the Brahman was poorly dressed, he inquired if his friend had been properly married and was executing the duties of household life. Since he was not dressed as a renunciant, he would be without a suitable ashram unless he was properly married. Prayo griheshu te chittam akama vihitam tatha nevati priyase vidvan dhaneshu viditam hime. Even though you're mostly involved in household affairs, your mind is not affected by material desires. Nor, O learned one, do you take much pleasure in the pursuit of material wealth. This I am well aware of. The Lord Krishna here reveals that in fact he was well aware of his friend's situation. Sudama was actually learned and spiritually advanced, and therefore he was not at all interested in ordinary sense gratification as is a common man. Kechit kurvanti karmani kamer ahata chetasa tyajanta prakriti hridayavir yataham loka sangraham. Having renounced all material propensities which spring from the Lord's illusory energy, some people execute worldly duties with their minds undisturbed by mundane desires. They act as I do to instruct the general populace. Kachid Guru Kulevas Brahman Smarasi no yata Vijo Vigyaya Vigyayam Tamasa Paramashante. My dear Brahman, do you remember how we lived together in our spiritual master's school? When a twice-born student has learned all his Guru that he has to be learned, he can enjoy a spiritual life which lies beyond all ignorance. Savai Satakarmanam Saksha Dvijate Sambhava Adyo Anga Yatra Shraminam Yataham Gyando Guru. My dear friend, he who gives a person his physical birth as his first spiritual master, and he who initiates him as a twice-born Brahman and engages him in religious duties, is indeed more directly his spiritual master. But the person who bestows transcendental knowledge upon the members of all the spiritual orders of society is one's ultimate spiritual master. Indeed, he is as good as my own self. Nanvartha Kovida Brahman Varnasham Vatamiha Ye Maya Guruna Vacha Tarantyanjo Bhavarnavam. Certainly, O Brahman, of all the followers of the Varnashram system, those who take advantage of the words I speak in my form as a spiritual master, and thus easily cross over the ocean of material existence, best understand their own true welfare. So one's father is a natural object of reverence, as is a religious leader who initiates one into sacred ceremonies and instructs one in general wisdom. But ultimately, the bona fide spiritual master, learned in the transcendental science, and thus able to take one across the ocean of birth and death to the spiritual world. Such a guru is most deserving of worship and respect, for he is a direct representative of the Supreme Personality of God, as stated here. So the knowledge and engagement in devotion service, that is the most important. Rest, everybody is respectful, but the guru who gives this thing, he is most respectful. He is deserving of worship and respect. Nahamidya prajatibhyam tapsopashamena va tushyayam sarvabhutatma guru shushrushaya yatha. I, the soul of all beings, am not as satisfied by ritual worship, Brahminical initiation, penances, or self-discipline, as I am by faithful service rendered to one's spiritual master. The word prajati here indicates either begetting good children or the second birth obtained by ritual initiation into Vedic culture. Although both of these are praiseworthy, Lord Krishna here states that faithful service rendered to a bona fide spiritual master is still higher. And that's what every morning in the puja we sing, Yasya Prasada Bhagavad Prasad. If Guru is pleased, Krishna is automatically pleased. And that Guru must be a bona fide spiritual master. Api nasmaryate brahman vritam nivasatam guru gurudvare shodhitanam indhananyane kvachit pravishtanam maharanyam aparto sumahadvija vata varsham abhut tivram nishthura stanayatnavaha. Oh Brahman, do you remember what happened to us while we were living with our spiritual master? Once our guru's wife sent us to fetch firewood, and after we entered the vast forest, twice more than one, an unseasonal storm arose with fierce wind and rain and harsh thunder. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that this storm arose during winter and was therefore unseasonal. So seasons are also properly situated if there is properly, and the countries are ruled properly by the proper king. Suryaschastam gatastavat tamasa chavrata disha nimnam kulam jalamayam na pragayat kinchana. Then as the sun set, the forest was covered by darkness in every direction, and with all the flooding, we could not distinguish high land from low. Vayam prisham tatra mahanilambubhir nihanya mana mururambu sampalave disho avitanto ath parasparam mane grihita hastah bramitaturaha. Constantly besieged by the powerful wind and rain, we lost our way amidst the flooding waters. We simply held each other's hands and in great distress wandered aimlessly about the forest. Srila Sridhar Swami points out the verb paribabhrim, may be understood with the prefix pari and with either the word bibhri or bibhram. In the case of Bhram, it indicates that Krishna's staff, Sudama wandered all about, and in the case of Bhri, which means to carry, it indicates as the two young boys wandered about, they continued to carry the firewood they had secured for the spiritual master. Etat viditva udite ravo sandipanir guruhu anveshamano nahshushyan acharya pashyadataram. Our Guru Sandipni, understanding our predicament, set out after sunrise to search for us, his disciples, and found us in distress. Aho he putraka yuyam asmad arthe ati dukkhita atma ve prani nam preshthas tamna dritya mat praha. Sandipni Muni said, O my children, you have suffered so much for my sake. The body is most dear to every living creature. But you are so dedicated to me that you completely disregarded your own comfort. एतदेव हि सच्चिष्य कर्तव्यं गुरु निष्कृतं यद्वै विशुद्ध भावेन सर्वार्थात्मार्पणं गुरो. This indeed is a duty of all true disciples, to repay the debt to their spiritual master by offering him with pure hearts their wealth and even their very lives. One engages one's body to realize one's purposes. The body is also the basis of the material conception of I, while one's fortune is the basis of conception of mine. Thus, by offering everything to the spiritual master, one realizes oneself to be the eternal servant of the Lord. The spiritual master does not exploit the disciple, but rather engages him fully in Krishna consciousness for the disciple's eternal benefit. So that is one of the many aspects of a bona fide spiritual master. Tushto aham bhodvij shrestha satya santu manoratha chandase yatyamani bhavantviha paratracha. You boys are the best of the twice born, and I am satisfied with you. May all your desires be fulfilled, and may the Vedic mantras you have learned never lose their meaning for you in this world or the next. Cooked food left sitting for 3 hours is called yatayama, indicating that it has lost its taste. And similarly, if a devotee does not remain fixed in Krishna consciousness, the transcendental knowledge that once inspired him on the spiritual path will lose its taste or meaning for him. Thus, Sandipni Muni blesses his disciples that the Vedic mantras, which reveal the absolute truth, will never lose their meaning for them, but will remain ever fresh in their minds. So cooked food left sitting for 3 hours is called a yatayam, indicating that it has lost its taste. Not just taste, it has lost its nutritious values also. But these days we are so used to eating all sorts of junk food, which is all cooked, not just 3 hours before, months before. And then even at home, it's just not practical to cook everything fresh. So we cook, keep it in the fridge, and then eat it later. But it has no taste and not any nutritious value left. And that's why there's so many diseases these days. Ittham vidhanekani vasatam guru veshmani gurur anugrihena puman purna prashantaye. Lord Krishna continued, we had many similar experiences by living in our spiritual master's home. Simply by the grace of the spiritual master, a person can fulfill one's life's purpose and attains eternal peace. So here, the story which is most popular in TV serials and movies is when the rain happened, Sudama and Krishna, they were on different trees. They took shelter of different trees, and whatever food the Guru Mata had given was with Sudama, and Sudama ate it all, and that's why he became poor. And when he came to Krishna, he paid it back by giving him back that 4 palmfuls of the flat rice, and then the karma was taken. But Bhagavatam doesn't talk like that. So I don't know. Maybe the story is true, maybe it's not. I don't know. Shri Brahman Uvacha Kim Asmabhir Nirvritam Deva Deva Jagat Guru Avata Satya Kamena Yesham Vaso Gurur Abhut. The Brahman said, what could I possibly have failed to achieve, the Lord of the Lords, a universal teacher, since I was able to personally live with you, whose every desire is fulfilled at the home of our spiritual master. Sudama Brahman wisely understands his extraordinary good fortune of having lived with Shri Krishna at the residence of their spiritual master. Thus, whatever external difficulties they experience while actually an expression of the Lord's mercy to teach the importance of service to the spiritual master. Prabhupada writes, Sudama said, "My dear Krishna, you're the Supreme Lord and the Supreme Spiritual Master of everyone. And since I was fortunate enough to live with you in the house of our Guru, I think I have nothing more to do in the matter of prescribed Vedic duties. So just by living with you and serving with you, it's taken care of everything. Yasya chandomayam brahma dehat avapanam vibho shreyasam tasya gurushu vasu atanta vidambanam. O Almighty Lord, your body comprises the absolute truth in the form of the Vedas and is thus the source of all auspicious goals of life. That you took up residence at the school of a spiritual master is simply one of your pastimes in which you play the role of a human being. So Sudama is glorifying Krishna. Krishna is glorifying Sudama. This is a beautiful relationship. Materially, they might be on different levels, but they are friends and they're glorifying each other. So that is what matters. So thus ends the purpose to 10th canto, 80th chapter of Bhagavatam, entitled The Brahman Sudama Visits Lord Krishna in Dwarka. Since we have time, we can start the next chapter, chapter 81. The Lord blesses Sudama Brahman. Shri Shukavacha sa ittham dvij mukhena sahasa katyan hari sarva bhutamano bhigya smaymano vachatam brahmanyo brahmanam Krishna Bhagwan prahasan priyam premna nirikshane neva prekshan khalu satam gati. Shukdev Goswami said, Lord Hari, Krishna, perfectly knows the hearts of all living beings, and he is especially devoted to the Brahmins. While the Supreme Lord, the goal of all saintly persons, conversed in this way with the best of the twice born, he laughed and spoke the following words to that dear friend of his, the Brahman Sudama, all the while smiling and looking upon him with affection. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, the words Sarva Bhuta Mano Abhigya indicate that since Lord Krishna knows the minds of everyone, he could tell at once that his friend Sudama had brought some flat rice for him and was ashamed to present it. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's further explanation of these words, Lord Krishna smiled at this moment, thinking, yes, I'm going to make you show what you brought for me. He smiled and turned into laughter as he thought, how long are you going to keep this precious gift hidden in your cloth? So Krishna knows everything. Shri Bhagwan Vacha Kim Upayanam Anitam Brahman me bhavata grihat anva api upahritam bhakta premna bhuryev me bhaye to bhurya api bhakto paratam namitoshaya kalpate. The Supreme Lord said, O Brahman, what gift have you brought me from home? I regard as great even the smallest gift offered by my devotees in pure love, but even great offerings presented by non-devotees do not please me. Patram pushpam phalam toyam. So this is from Bhagavad Gita, this shloka. Yo me bhakti aprachati tadham bhakti upritam ashnami pratatmana. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I'll accept it. In the context of the current episode of Sudama's visit to Dwarka, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has kindly continued his explanation of Lord Krishna's statements. This verse is a reply to Sudama's anxiety that his bringing such an unfit offering was ill-considered. The use of the words bhaktya prayachati and bhakti upaharitam may seem redundant, but since they both mean offered with devotion. But bhaktya can indicate how the Lord reciprocates the devotional mood of whoever offers him something with love. In other words, Lord Krishna here declares that his reciprocation in a pure loving exchange is not dependent on the external quality of what is offered. Krishna says something may or may not be impressive and pleasing in its own right. But when my devotee offers it to me in devotion with the expectation that I will enjoy it, it gives me great pleasure. In this regard, I make no distinction. But it doesn't mean if somebody is capable of offering nice, opulent, and seasonal fruits, he doesn't offer. He says, "Oh, Krishna just asked for, oh, just give me leaf, a flower, fruit, and little water. I'll accept." No, according to our means, according to our capacity, we should offer him the best. But this is love. Sudama Vipra was poor. He begged, his wife begged, and they gave whatever they got. There was no choice. But we have plenty of choices. We should offer the best that we can to Krishna with love. That's also important. Iti ukto api dviyas tasmai vridita patyeshriya prithuk prasritim rajan na prayachad vang mukha. Shukdev Goswami continued, even after being addressed in this way, O king, the Brahman felt too embarrassed to offer his palmfuls of flat rice to the husband of the great goddess of fortune. He simply kept his head bowed in shame. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the description here of Krishna as a husband of the goddess of fortune implies that Sudama questioned himself, how can the Lord of Shri eat this hard, stale rice? By bowing his head, the Brahman revealed his meditation. My dear master, please do not make me ashamed. Even if you request it from me repeatedly, I will not give this to you. I have made up my mind. But the Lord countered with his own thought. The intention you had fixed in your mind while coming here must not be frustrated, for you are my devotee. Sarva bhutatma driksaksha tasya gamana karanam vidyadaya chintyanayam shri kamo ma bhajatpura patanya pati vritayastu sakha priya chikirshaya prapto mamasya dasyami sampado amartya durlabha. Being the direct witness in the hearts of all living beings, Lord Krishna fully understood why Sudama had come to see him. Thus he thought, in the past my friend has never worshipped me out of a desire for material opulence, but now he comes to me to satisfy his chaste and devoted wife. I'll give him riches that even the immortal demigods cannot obtain. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that the Lord momentarily wondered, how has it come about, despite my omniscience, that this devotee of mine has fallen into such poverty? Then, quickly understanding the situation, he spoke to himself the words related in this verse. But someone may point out that Sudama should not have been so poverty-stricken, since appropriate enjoyment comes as a byproduct of service to God, even for a devotee who has no ulterior motives. In response to this point, a distinction must be made between two kinds of renounced devotees. One kind is inimical to sense gratification, and the other is indifferent to it. Supreme Lord does not force sense gratification to the devotee upon the devotee who is extremely averse to worldly enjoyments. This is seen among such renouncers as Jad Bharat. On the other hand, the Lord may give limitless wealth and power to a devotee who is neither repelled nor attracted by material things, such as Prahlad Maharaj or even Yudhishthira Maharaj. Up to this point in his life, Sudama Brahman was totally averse to sense gratification. But now, out of compassion for his faithful wife, and also because he hankered to have Krishna's audience, he went to beg from the Lord. Ittham vichintya vasanacha chira baddhan dvijan manaha swayam jahara kimidam iti prithu katandulan. Thinking like this, the Lord snatched from the Brahman's garment the grains of flat rice tied up in an old piece of cloth and exclaimed, "What is this?" Nanavetad upanitam me param priyananam sakhe tarpayantyangam vishvam ete pritu katandula. My friend, have you brought this for me? It gives me extreme pleasure indeed. These few grains of flat rice will satisfy not only me but also the entire universe. This is Krishna. Srila Prabhupada writes, it is understood from this statement that Krishna, being the original source of everything, is the root of the entire creation. As watering the root of a tree immediately distributes water to every part of the tree, so an offering made to Krishna or any action done for Krishna is to be considered the highest welfare work for everyone, because the benefit of such an offering is distributed throughout the creation. Love for Krishna is distributed to all living entities. Iti mushtim sakrit jagadva dvitiyam jagdhum adade tavat shri jagrihe hastam tatpara parameshtina. After saying this, the Supreme Lord ate one palmful and was about to eat a second when the devoted goddess Rukmini took hold of his hand. Queen Rukmini took hold of Krishna's hand to prevent him from eating any more of that flat rice. So many acharyas given different reasons for this. Sridhar Swami says that this much of your grace is sufficient to assure anyone vast riches, which are merely the play of my glance. But please do not force me to surrender myself to this Brahman, as will happen if you eat one more handful. So just one palmful of rice, Rukmini is thinking this is enough to give him plenty of riches. Don't do more than this. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains, Rukmini implied, if you eat all of this wonderful treat your friend brought from his house, what will I have left for my friends, co-wives, servants, and everyone else? And myself. There will not be enough left to distribute even one grain to each of us. So please. Or also, she's telling by her gesture to her maid servant, this hard rice will upset my Lord's tender stomach. So that way also she stopped Krishna. Prabhupada comments, when food is offered to Lord Krishna with love and devotion, and he is pleased and accepts it from a devotee, Rukmini Devi, the goddess of fortune, becomes so greatly obliged to the devotee that she has to personally go to the devotee's home to turn it into the most opulent home in the world. If one feeds Narayan sumptuously, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, automatically becomes a guest in one's house, which means that one's home becomes opulent. But we don't serve Krishna that, okay, my home is going to become opulent. Well, the opulence that we deserve or desire is of bhakti, nothing else. Because other opulence, material or money-wise, if you get that, then there could be chance we get diverted from bhakti. That's not what we want. And definitely Krishna is not going to give that. So all we desire is to serve Krishna. That's all. Etavat talam vishwatman sarva sampata samriddhaya asmin loke athva mushmin punsas tattosha karanam. Queen Rukmini said, this is more than enough for soul of the universe to secure him an abundance of all kinds of wealth in this world and the next. After all, one's prosperity depends simply on your satisfaction. It's a wonderful story. We'll continue tomorrow. We'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I do agree that the Lord Krishna's devotees, maybe, he won't give wealth to them, but to some, because Lakshmi ji is wife of Krishna, so eventually it will come, I think, that Dhana Prapti will come automatically. See,
Whether money comes or not doesn't matter. They will, I mean, there will be plenty to serve Krishna. That's most important.
true, Prabhuji.
And प्रभु जी shortage भी नहीं होती किसी चीज की.
ना हाँ वही shortage नहीं होगी. Yeah,
है ना?
that is
Shortage नहीं
more
होगी.
important.
That is what more important.
माता जी said correctly. Shortage नहीं होगी.
Shortage नहीं
और
होती.
yeah.
तो
मन
सेवा करते रहो and
आनंदित
that's
रहेगा.
it. हाँ, that is more important.
एक चीज तो है प्रभु जी, मन तो since like जब से कृष्णा का मतलब become devotee and everything, मन बहुत आनंदित रहता है. It's like a still water. जैसे water कुछ कोई situations आती है लाइफ में ना, तो उतना hiccups नहीं आता है. आराम
हाँ,
से
ये
थोड़ा सा, जो आपने एग्जांपल दिया था वो एम्बेसडर और मर्सिडीज, तो वैसे ही है.
हाँ वैसा ही है. ये बात तो है.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu. So you all have a safe and wonderful Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Jai
Prabhuji.
Shri Ram.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.